Good afternoon and welcome to Some TV World News. I am Moses Peter, and today we bring you accurate, timely and trusted reports from around the world as events unfold. Stay with us for the stories shaping our world. The Philippines is considering a nationwide ban on vapes due to rising youth use and deceptive marketing. Health Secretary Teodoro Herbosa stated that e-cigarettes are widespread among high school students, driven by flavored products and cartoon-style packaging. The Department of Health, DOH, cites serious health risks, including cardiovascular disease, cancer, and severe lung injuries. The World Health Organization, WHO, warns that e-cigarettes are driving a surge in nicotine addiction among children, with young people more likely to vape than adults. Neighboring Malaysia is moving ahead with a phased vape ban, starting with refillable devices. Several Malaysian states are already enforced local bans. In the Philippines, regulators are tightening rules requiring mandatory permits for vape promotions and advertisements, and strict age gating for online content. Public comments are open until December 15. The DOH is open to prohibition, and the country appears aligned with regional efforts to rein in vaping. A South Korean woman has been sentenced to 4 years in jail for extorting Major League Soccer player Son Heung-min, claiming she was pregnant with his child. The woman, identified as Yang, demanded money from Son, threatening to make her pregnancy public unless he paid her 300 million won, which is equivalent to $205,000, and later tried to extort an additional 70 million won. Yang and her male accomplice, who was sentenced to 2 years in prison, used Son's fame to their advantage, causing him significant mental distress. The Seoul Central District Court ruled that Yang's actions were a serious offense, and her failure to confirm the identity of the child's father was also noted. Son, who plays for Los Angeles FC, had previously stated that he knew Yang but had received a demand for money with fabricated materials. His representatives were unavailable for comment on the court's decision. The U.S. has omitted nuclearization of North Korea as a goal in its new global security roadmap, sparking speculation of potential talks between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The document focuses on containing conflict with China and boosting military power of Asian allies, chiefly South Korea and Japan. The omission has fueled expectations of a diplomatic breakthrough, with Kim indicating willingness to talk if treated as an equal nuclear state leader. Trump has expressed willingness to meet Kim proactively, and South Korea believes conditions are ripe for talks in 2026. Analysts say peace talks would cement Kim standing at home and prove he delivered on promises. The U.S. and South Korea deny any policy shift, stressing nuclearization remains the goal. South Korea is bolstering its defense, pledging 3.5% of GDP to military spending by 2035. Thailand and Cambodia's border conflict has escalated, with Thailand launching airstrikes after accusing Cambodia of breaching a ceasefire agreement. The conflict began in May 2025, with both countries accusing each other of firing first, resulting in deaths and displacement of civilians. A ceasefire agreement was brokered by U.S. President Donald Trump in July 2025, and an enhanced agreement was signed in October 2025. However, tensions resumed, with Thailand halting implementation of the pact in November 2025 after a landmine blast injured a soldier. The conflict has been seen as heavy artillery fire, rocket attacks, and airstrikes, with hundreds of thousands of civilians evacuated. The US had previously nominated Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize for his role in brokering the ceasefire. Indonesia's Sumatra Island is facing a massive recovery bill after devastating floods and landslides claimed 950 lives, with 274 people still missing as of Monday. The storms also affected neighboring countries, killing about 200 people in southern Thailand and Malaysia. The Indonesia government estimates that 51.82 trillion rupiah, equivalent to $3.11 billion, is needed for reconstruction and recovery efforts across three provinces: Aceh, North Sumatra, and West Sumatra. Aceh province requires the largest share, with 25.41 trillion rupiah allocated for relief efforts. President Prabowo Subianto assured that the government has the capacity to manage the recovery process, stating, "The point is we have the capacity and we will do it meticulously and do our best to manage it." The reconstruction process is set to begin soon in areas that have recovered relatively well, with temporary houses being built for affected families. Australia's social media ban for under-16 set to take effect on December 10 has raised concerns among mental health experts and teenagers. The ban, which blocks access to platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, may worsen feelings of isolation and anxiety during the upcoming holiday season. Teenagers like Iris Tolson and Annie Wang are worried about being disconnected from friends and social media, with Tolson saying, "You are basically isolated for about 6 weeks during the school holidays." Experts warn that the timing of the ban just before the longest school break may exacerbate mental health issues, particularly for marginalized groups. Youth services are preparing for a potential surge in referrals, with kids helpline training additional counselors and Headspace monitoring the situation. The government plans to collect data on the ban's impact over the next 2 years, but some experts argue that more support is needed for young people during this transition. Thailand and Cambodia's border conflict has escalated, with Thailand launching airstrikes in Cambodia after accusing Cambodia of breaching a ceasefire agreement. The clashes have resulted in at least 1 Thai soldier killed and 8 wounded, with Cambodia reporting 3 civilian injuries. The conflict began in May 2025, with both countries contesting sovereignty along their 817-kilometer border. A ceasefire deal was brokered by US President Donald Trump and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim in July 2025, and an expanded peace agreement was signed in October 2025. However, tensions resumed, with Thailand halting implementation of the truce in November 2025 after a landmine blast injured a soldier. The fighting has displaced hundreds of thousands of civilians, with over 385,000 evacuated in Thailand and more than 1,100 families displaced in Cambodia. ASEAN Chair Anwar Ibrahim has urged both sides to exercise restraint and maintain open communication channels. China's Liaoning aircraft carrier conducted intense air operations near Japan, launching around 100 takeoffs and landings as it sailed into the Pacific Ocean. Japan's self-defense forces scrambled aircraft to shadow the vessel, with Tokyo protesting China's actions as dangerous and regrettable. China denies wrongdoing, claiming Japan's aircraft endangered flight safety. The incident escalates tensions between China and Japan, with Tokyo warning it could respond to any Chinese military action against Taiwan that threatens Japan's security. China claims Taiwan, and this has increased military pressure on the island, whose government rejects Beijing's claims. Japan hosts thousands of US Marines in Okinawa, and the US has voiced support for Japan in the dispute. China's actions have prompted diplomatic BAPs, with Beijing advising citizens not to travel to Japan and suspending seafood imports from Japan. An Australian firefighter was killed overnight after being struck by a tree while battling a bushfire north of Sydney. The 59-year-old man suffered a cardiac arrest and died at the scene near Bulladella, 200 kilometers north of Sydney. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese honored the firefighters' bravery, stating, "We honor that bravery every day." The bushfire has destroyed homes and burnt large areas of bushland in New South Wales and Tasmania. Over 50 bushfires were burning across New South Wales, with 16 homes destroyed in the Central Coast region. In Tasmania, 19 homes were destroyed and 40 damaged in a blaze at Dolphin Sands. Authorities warn of a high-risk bushfire season during Australia's summer months, citing increased chances of extreme heat and climate change as contributing factors. The country is still recovering from the devastating Black Summer fires of 2019 to 2020, which destroyed an area the size of Turkey and killed 33 people. The United Nations has appealed for a $23 billion aid budget for 2026, a significant reduction from the $47 billion it had initially hoped for in 2025. This drastic cut forces the UN to prioritize only the most desperate cases, shutting out tens of millions of people in urgent need of help. The funding costs come amid soaring humanitarian needs, with the UN identifying 87 million people as priority cases. However, around 250 million people require urgent assistance, and the UN aims to help 135 million at a cost of $33 billion if funding allows. The biggest single appeal is $4 billion for the occupied Palestinian territories, primarily for Gaza, which has been devastated by the Israel-Hamas conflict. Sudan and Syria follow as the next priorities. UNAID Chief Tom Fletcher emphasizing the dire situation, stating, "We are overstretched, underfunded, and under attack." Benin's government has announced that it successfully foiled a coup attempt led by a group of soldiers on Sunday, December 7, 2025. Interior Minister Alassane Sidog stated that the soldiers who briefly took control of state television aimed to destabilize the state and its institutions. The mutiny was short-lived as loyalist forces quickly regained control and President Patrice Talon remained safe. The coup plotters, identifying themselves as the Military Committee for the Foundation, claimed to have removed Talon from office and appointed Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tingri as head of a new military committee. However, Sidog assured citizens that the situation was under control and daily activities could resume as normal. South Africa has ended its 90-day visa exemption for Palestinian passport holders, citing systematic abuse of the system. The decision follows investigations into 2 charter flights that brought 153 Palestinians from Gaza to Johannesburg in November. Namibia's bid to legalize the international trade of rhino horns was rejected at the CITES summit in Uzbekistan. The proposal to allow controlled sales of horns from black and southern white rhinos received only 30 votes in favor out of 120, falling short of the required 2/3 majority. Namibia had argued that selling its stockpiled rhino horns could raise funds for conservation and alleviate financial pressure on the government and private rhino owners. However, opponents warned that legalizing the trade would fuel demand in Asian markets, increase poaching, and threaten already vulnerable rhino populations. The international ban on rhino horn trade in place since 1977 remains unchanged. Namibia is expected to retain its stockpiles and conservation efforts will continue to focus on protecting the critically endangered black rhino and southern white rhino populations. Uganda opposition candidate Bobi Wine has accused security forces of beating him and his supporters during a campaign event in Gulu, northern Uganda. Wine, who is challenging President Yoweri Museveni in the January 15 presidential election, claimed he was hit in the face during a cane and several supporters were hospitalized. The incident has sparked concerns over escalating violence ahead of the election. Wine's National Unity Party has faced crackdowns, with the UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk condemning the intensifying crackdown on opposition members, citing